Thanks for having me, Matt. Yeah, so my journey started, I mean, probably since I was a little kid, but I won't bore you with my childhood. I think in my 20s, I was a single mom of two kids, and I pursued real estate because I wanted to give my kids something more than what I had, right? And I remember being in my 20s, being successful, like having a great year. Even had my house in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. For those of you that know, Scottsdale, it's a gorgeous place,
Hmm.
fun town. And I had the materialistic things like a BMW. I had a nice house in a nice neighborhood, and people saw me as successful. But I was like running around with my head cut off
Mm.
Monday through Sunday. Yes, I had a live-in nanny, and people thought, "Oh, you must be rich," and I'm like, "No, you just make it work." And I remember thinking to myself, what's that thing? Why are some people so successful? Why other people struggle? And it was more so I was so obsessed with like my own journey at the time of understanding like what is that thing that I'm doing either right or wrong. I mean, just because I successfully looked successful on the outside, I had a lot of failure. There was times I had no idea how I was going to pay my
Right.
mortgage. There was really tough times, and just grassroots had to build it from there. And that's actually later make things happen came about because I know that we're all making things happen, but it's how you make things happen that makes a big difference. Just because you're busy 40 hours, 50, 70 hours a week working, does it mean that you're adding the right intentions and the quality right, of the volume of work that you're doing. So, and that's really where Make Things Happen started. And I was so obsessed. And I said, wow, there's other people out there that have to be like me, like just wanting more and not knowing that, holy cow, you can actually control your future. You can't control the outside world, but you can control how you choose to show up.
You just mentioned the word obsessed. That is such a rare trait for people because a lot of people don't want to put in the work, but they don't know why to put in the work. They don't have that passion. So, how did you find that passion to find an obsession for work and just to keep going?
Honestly, it was the results. I'm very results driven. I've always been results driven. Someone can say, "Oh, you can do this and you can do that," but you have to want it. You have to have the desire for something more. And I think that for me, it was living in survival mode pretty much my whole life, even as a kid, which is another story. But and then of course, soon after, became a single mom, and I was truly living in survival mode my entire like young life and young adult life until something changes. Everything that you do are based on the decisions and the choices that you're making, right? So everything that shows up in your life is based on a decision or a choice, whether you chose to not do that thing or you chose to stay in your safe zone. It's all based on decisions that you're making right now. And so I became really obsessed with knowing that there was a better way and experiencing it and actually going through those motions. Nothing I talk about is anything I haven't gone through myself.
Hmm.
I did do one-on-one coaching my early career, when I was just doing the coaching and train, and I did come up with a training myself for a 12-day course, and it was mostly all foundational and the whole mindset of the psychology behind the sale.
Hmm.
I started with sales because I've been in sales my entire life, and so I started, selling real estate as my early entrepreneurship. And I remember being in real estate for maybe 9 years, not even 9 years, actually. And I decided to do a 12-day course based on what I was obsessed about. When I honestly was like in my late 20s when I identified, there was a book that didn't change my life overnight, but The Power of Your Subconscious Mind.
Mm.
That was eye opener for me big time because I was just more self-taught. I threw myself in learning about the mind, all about the mind. And I say about it, I say this often. I'll be like that 90-year-old woman going to a conference to learn something about the brain because it's so massive. Like we
Right.
haven't even tapped into even half our brains, right? There's so much that we do, that we really can control, and the things that you're thinking about in your mind that really manifest the things that show up in your life. So yeah, I think that my obsession comes from learning and knowing that when I learned this, I applied it. And it was eventually, Matt, it was like, this cannot be a coincidence. Like it
Hmm.
continues to happen. So it was just proof that the proof is in the pudding. When you apply yourself, when you do the things to be intentional, things do change in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. If you put in that work and then also just think better, have better self talk, and thoughts shape your reality. We have, I forget the number, but so many thoughts per day, and almost 80% of those are all negative. And they probably, you don't even have to think about it. It just comes across your mind because it's programmed into you. It's just like the habit of what you do right when you wake up in the morning. Do you check your phone? Do you go to the bathroom? Do you go downstairs and make food? Like, what is that first thing? Like, that's how your mind operates. So if you're filling yourself with negative thoughts every day, you're going to
Right.
get negative outcome. But you're a perfect example that you think, hey, I'm capable of so much more. I'm going to go do it now. And I shaped my reality based on the thought that I believe in myself and I'm going to put in the work to actually do it.
Absolutely. And honestly, Matt, was always driven by fear before when I was living on survival mode. It was just like, what's the alternative? To have the reality that my parents were actually struggling entrepreneurs. Like I moved like 15 different places by the time I was 18. And it
Wow.
wasn't like I moved from like New Mexico to California. It was all in San Diego, like down a mile away, because my parents unfortunately got evicted from our 2 bedroom apartment. It was a family of 6. So I have 2 brothers and a sister. And those are and everyone has a story. Like there's kids that, I mean, there's people I know that have like worse upbringings than I did, and I'm so grateful that these were lessons that I
Yeah.
was actually, when you think about, you go to school for 4 years or 10 years. Like for me, I was in school my whole childhood. I was learning the real hard knocks of like hard times and struggle. And you might think, okay, well, that's the same cycle that a lot of kids will go through, is based on your past. But your past doesn't have to define your future. Your
Hmm.
choices define your future. And I learned from that. I said, hold on a second. I'm in my 20s, actually, even before that, and I was living the same vicious cycle that I learned that life was hard. I learned that life was a struggle. And there I was, yes, working 7 days a week, on the outside, yes, financially able to afford the things that I had, but it was still a struggle.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I worked myself to the bone, because I was so afraid. And then I turned my life around. And then now that I actually live with intention, I no longer do the things I do out of fear. I'm bringing intention to the game, and everything changes. And that's how you make things happen.
Exactly. And if you're living in the past all the time, it's going to shape your future because you're always either there's something attached to you like a chain and you're just getting pulled back, or maybe you're just always peering over your shoulder about a previous event or a previous opportunity that passed by and you just can't get past that. But now all of a sudden you're cutting into your present time and your future time because you just can't get over it. And I love what you mentioned about saying that you're in a survival mode because it is it's such a good reminder to people that nobody's going to help you. There
Yeah.
might be people in your network that they're going to give you support, but nobody is coming and knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, I want to help you pay your mortgage." Like you
Right.
mentioned, like you didn't know how to pay it. Like nobody's coming and saying, "I want to do this for you." It is super, super rare. It is up to you. It's up to everybody in life to not only find what they want to do, but then go make it happen because you're not getting that free handout from anyone. And too many people look for that these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, oh, so and so has a nice ride, and they're also too busy knocking other people's upbringing. Maybe their friend had a full ride, a paid call, everything gets paid
Yep.
for. You can't get to where you're going if you're constantly looking and even judging others. Like let them ride their own journey and find their way, but you have to focus on where you're going. And when you mentioned about the past, it's like I just told somebody on my team yesterday. I said, you're going, where are you going?
Hmm.
Like, do you know where you're headed? Right? Because that's where your focus should be. Can you imagine if you're driving a car and you're looking in the rearview mirror at your
Right.
past? Well, you're going to crash.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Also, if you don't have that direction, you might be trying to drive to, I mean, you're in Connecticut, you might want to drive down to Florida, but you don't have that direction. You're going out to California.
you'll go
And
somewhere, that's for
yeah.
sure.
So you got to not only take that action, but know an idea of where you're going, or else you're going to be way off track. And over time, it's just going to
100%.
get even further.
Absolutely. And that's why I really so big on like, what does it look like everything, and oftentimes people, I made this analogy just because I'm from California, this analogy that, you're coming from San Diego to New York and you're taking this road trip, and, what are you focusing on? And, you focus on, what if I get a flat tire? What if I run out of gas? What if my engine blows? All these what ifs. It's called life. Like stuff
Yeah.
happens. Hello, we just had this pandemic. You can't control the outside world, but you can control what are the things that are going to allow you to feel more empowered, to feel more confident, to feel more secure, right? You can either spend time on the what ifs and all the scary things of the what ifs, or you can focus on, well, when I get there, what does that look like? And really being able to uncover that, because everything that you've done in your life before you've done it in your mind first. Everything, even engineers that are building bridges, they have to visualize what that's going to look like before it actually comes to fruition.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So, Diana, you've developed this whole brand about making things happen. Where did that come from and what does that mean to you?
honestly, so I did this 12-day course, as I mentioned. I actually was from San Diego, lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, selling real estate, met my husband now, and I have two additional kids now. And so I moved to Connecticut where he's from. Crazy story there. But I came to Connecticut, hit the ground running with real estate. And then I said, I need to do something more. And that's where I did my 12-day course.
Hmm.
And I was really empowering other agents, realtors that have been in the business longer than me, making six figures a year, that, getting them to do their own little mini breakthroughs, applying my real estate course that I created from scratch, 12-day course. And it really went over the foundation of how you are, how you're built, that I truly believe our creator built everybody the same freaking way, the same ingredients. It's how you use what's inside you and the potential that you already have that exists. And that's really where it made things happen. It's funny because I ended up, I do different things. I'm also the VP of sales and people operations at Interpreters and Translators Inc. So it's a family business that my husband has. So I do wear different hats, and then there's a couple things I do, and then of course the speaker and the events that I do. And so it was make things happen. My whole career was like, are you making things happen? I would go around and talk to people. Are you making, I didn't invent the word, right? Make things happen.
Yeah.
But I was always going around everywhere, make things happen. And we made it part of our staff meeting every month, that I would have a staff meeting with our team. And at the end of the slide, because we get an update on the company, how we're doing, what are we doing. And then at the very end, I had a sticky note and I put make things happen. And on the top of that, I put let's continue to
Mm.
make things happen. And I think it's a mental connotation big time for me. It's like how you receive it. So when you actually look at my brand, it says make things happen, because I'm talking to you, make
Yeah.
things happen. Right. And so, and I think that's what I think that's where the obsession came, is that, has been my big thing. Like, are you making things happen? Are you moving the needle? Are you making things happen? Or is life happening to you?
Mm. I like that. Yeah. You have to take control sometimes and take that initiative. How have you seen your life change once you made that decision to be proactive?
To be proactive, honestly, I think so much has changed. I breathe better.
Yeah.
On my phone, I have in the background, people have pictures. I have the words breathe as a
Mm.
reminder. But honestly, it's so rewarding. I mean, life has always been fun and crazy, and like a roller coaster. Now I'm able to be in control. Like, I'm in control. I get to decide up front. And I think that when you decide up front how it's going to be, you're setting the tone. And yes, things could happen, and all of that. But when you apply yourself, when you bring intention to the game, when you're actually saying, okay, I'm going to take the driver's seat, and yes, it might be scary, and yes, I might, go through some roadblocks. That's just called life.
Yeah.
But when you decide up front how it's going to be, you're really truly taking charge, and it's all in your perspective, right? So anything in life, whether you want to, you're building, when that saying that when you build it, they'll come.
Hmm.
When you build the mindset, right, build your mindset of opportunities, of possibilities, you're really intentional. Everything I do is very intentional. Before a meeting, like, what is my outcome for today's meeting, for example, to impact other people, to impact the audience, whoever's listening to this right now? That is the end goal. It's not about you, it's about how are you serving, how are you
Exactly.
contributing. And that's made a big difference for sure.
Yeah. 100%. And you mentioned build it and they will come. Like that is, it's such a interesting idea. And I think of that as in this podcast. Like if you build this podcast, I mean, you do speaking as well. You have these ideas, you build it up, and everybody, you're expecting people to come. The thing that separates good from great, in my opinion, is people that have that passion like yourself, people that put themselves out there and say, like, I want to help you, because it's not just about your speaking brand. It's about, hey, here are the hundreds and thousands of people that I'm going to reach and I'm going to help people. Now they're going to come. Now they're going to come tenfold because they know what you can provide. They know what this podcast can provide as well. And it's so much more beneficial. So anybody out there that's trying to make an impact in the world and they think just, I'm going to start something, you got to, put yourself out there and actually try to make more influence on people, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Everybody, I don't care if you're 11 years old or 90 years old, everyone has the ability and are already doing it, to influence other people, right? You come around anybody, they're influencing you in a negative way or a positive way. But you can definitely make a big impact in somebody's life, and you never know. I remember when I first started, they're like, oh, who do you think you are, Tony Robbins? I'm like, no, I'm freaking Diana Pagano. That's who I am, right? And know in your heart of hearts that what you're doing, somebody out there needs to hear it. And whatever it is that your passion, whatever it is, like I said one time, like, I don't care if you like planting tomatoes, there's somebody doing it the wrong way and you're going to show them how to do it the right way.
Hmm.
There's always an audience that needs to hear, even if it's just one person that you make a difference with. It's
Yeah.
impactful.
I love that. Like being unique is so important. That one of the best pieces of advice I have been given was the phrase that there is a blank void in your field, and then you fill in your name. So Diana Pagano, there is a Diana Pagano
I
void in the speaking field because
love
now
that.
it's not Tony Robbins, it's not
Right,
Grant Cardone, it's not
right,
these people that people like millions of people go to
right,
because you're unique. You're not, transcribing their script and telling it
right,
because that's not you.
right.
It's not me to look at your message and then say it on this podcast because that's the whole idea of like why success is so different for everyone because we all have our own message. We all have something different to present to the table,
Right.
and that is why it's so important to share that.
And also just falling in love with who you are, right? Like how you say what you say and the things that you do. I mean, how many times have you seen a speaker or I don't know, some video and they could say the same thing, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it rings differently, like it resonates with you. And like I've heard this before, but man, the way that he or she
Hmm.
said it, it resonated with you, right? So I do think that that's the power of our own individuality. Like we all have a special gift, right?
Yeah.
You haven't found it, just put yourself out there and you will. And I always say that I'm just another 31, another flavor in the 31 flavors, right? Because nothing I talk about, I invented. Even when I go deep into quantum physics back with Napoleon Hill, like there's so much that's just no one's reinvented the wheel. Not one person, I don't care who it is, whether it's Tony Robbins or Mother Teresa, no one reinvented the wheel. It's
Hmm.
all been there and it's all within inside you. You might have a good idea that maybe hasn't been done, but we all have your unique gifts and putting yourself out there. Oftentimes people like myself, once upon a time, they see that, how are you so confident on camera? And I sure as heck never felt that confident. You just have to show up. You
Yeah.
have to do it, right? And not be worried, because I was guilty of it, of what other people think of you.
Hmm.
I think that that's honestly one of the biggest things that hold people back, is that they're too worried about what other people think to put themselves out there, whatever that looks like. And I'm telling you, it's so liberating when you finally do and you stay true to who you are.
Yeah.
I
Those
think it
message
makes.
those messages that we share that might have been told before are so much more valuable when you have a story to tell it with. Like you said, the words that you say make things happen were not invented by you, but the story that
Right,
you can share with it, that's what makes it impactful. That is why people come to you for different things because if you just walk around saying make things happen, people might be like, what is she talking about? But if you say like, here's what I came from, here's how I can help you, okay,
right.
now they're listening.
Now they're listening. Yeah, I think it's just finding your thing. What is it that you love? I mean, I've had people, even college students that, I've been coaching and I've talked with or talked in front of. And I'm like, just you're at such a prime age. You can do whatever you want. Just put
Yeah.
yourself out there and you'll discover. I mean, I sure as heck at 18 years old. I mean, I thought I wanted to go to law school once upon a time. And anyway, there's a lot that you go through the journey. And I think it's also knowing who you are and who you're not, and just being open to discover who you are, and
Hmm.
being okay with that, right? And learning and looking at your values, like what do you value, what makes you unique, whether you're going for that job interview or whatever, being able to be your biggest fan, even with your imperfections, right? Not letting that hold you back, right? I didn't do
Yeah.
this, I should have done that, and thinking all the things that you haven't done yet is sometimes, you get chains behind your back and you
Hmm.
feel like a little bit held back because you're so focused on what you didn't do yet, or how you don't know what you're passionate about. And when you seek, you shall find. I truly believe when you seek, you shall find. So if you're seeking for an answer, just be open and things will happen, things will fall into place.
100%. Well, a lot of people here are seeking success. So, can you give us your definition for the word success?
I think being happy.
Yeah.
Literally being
Simple.
happy. It sounds really like a cliche. Like, what do you mean be happy, Diana? Like, I can't pay my freaking rent as I'm not happy. But honestly, doing what you love, it sounds really overrated sometimes. Like, oh, do what you love. What does that really mean? Because when you are literally, I don't care what it is. I've never told this guy, like, listen, you love shoes, go sell shoes at Nordstrom's. You will be so successful.
Yeah.
But I think the meaning for me and my journey and what I've been, I think the meaning for success for other people mean different things. I don't think it's the money and the zeros in your bank account. Yes, it affords you to do things. It affords me to bless others in my family that haven't been able to 100%. But for me, I think success is truly being happy, being fulfilled, and contributing towards something greater than yourself. I think that that's success when you can sit back and say, I'm not, even when I've done my craziest days, I've landed opportunities and I can sit there and say, I'm good. Like I could breathe good. I'm not like, you see entrepreneurs, I was one of them that was successful in their bank account, but wasn't really, didn't feel that fulfillment. Right. And I think that it's like you're growing. It's like a plant. If you think that you've grown and you've got nowhere to go, I think that that's the recipe for depression.
Mm.
And you won't be fulfilled. So I think being fulfilled and being really happy with who you are and where you're at and falling in love with your journey. Yes, it's okay to say, I don't want to stay where I'm at. I don't be complacent, reach for more, but find the gratitude of where you're at. And when you can say the shit's hitting the fan, excuse me for the lack of better terms,
No
the
worries.
shit's hitting the fan, but I can still find gratitude in the storm. I think that's freaking success, honest to God, because that success will take you so much bigger to anything you've ever even imagined.
Yeah, there's something really powerful about someone who is passionate and happy in life. No matter if, like you said, you're selling shoes at Nordstrom or if it's a business partner about to close a
Mhm.
multi-million-dollar deal with you,
Right.
someone you can tell from their vibe, their energy, that they are happy, they are fulfilled, and they are just genuine in what they're doing. You want to buy from them every single day in the
It's
week.
infectious. Their
Yeah.
energy, your energy is infectious. Being somebody that's been in sales literally my entire life, I've sold sales training. Um, Sales is nothing more than a transfer of emotions.
Mm,
Right. So whatever it is I'm selling, if I don't transfer my emotions to you, I haven't sold you anything. I haven't done my job. I mean, you don't have to close anyone if you've done that. And I think that's where passion comes in. When you're truly passionate about, unapologetically passionate about what it is that you're passionate about and whatever you want to apply yourself to. Um, that's why I say do what you love, because that transfer, I don't care if you're in sales or not, we're all in sales. We're all selling ourselves on some level. You're going to make huge impact.
that's interesting. You said we're all selling something at some level. So I think what we all sell on a day-to-day basis is ourselves. I'm selling
Yes,
myself to you in this podcast. You're selling yourself to the audience, and I'm selling the podcast to future listeners. Like it just goes on and on and on.
absolutely.
So, how does that relate to you said love what you do to sell it? How do you love yourself to sell yourself the best way possible?
How do you sell yourself?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's being transparent with yourself first off, because you can fool everybody around you, but you can't fool yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that is being transparent with yourself. So then I tell people, like, take a hard look in the mirror and be very transparent with yourself and be your biggest fan. Honestly, like that, it's when you talk about, I do talk about self-love. Sometimes I get into a little bit of the mushy stuff and I'm like, people think that's a little corny. How do you love yourself? What do you mean? You have to love yourself first before you can even love somebody else. I don't care if
Yeah.
it's a customer. Truly love yourself, fall in love with who you are. And what you bring to the table. When you become your biggest fan, nobody, not in that interview, that college, and whatever it is that you're doing, nobody significant, the date, no one is going to see your value if you don't see it for yourself first, because you will exude, honestly, just by default, that confidence. It doesn't have to be out of conceit. It could be the most humble confidence, but you have to be your biggest fan, right? And
Mhm.
so, and I always say you have to influence yourself first, because once you're sold, the rest, that's going to just come natural, versus you
Exactly.
trying to be somebody you're not, or trying to push on this, whatever it is that you're selling, if it is a sales position or whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
It's got to be your biggest fan.
definitely. I like to tell some people that being selfless or selfish is often very selfless. If you are someone that wants to work on yourself, personal development, obviously you have to do it in a positive manner for it to be selfless. But if you're taking the time to personally develop and learn something new, improve the relationships around you, that is very selfless because now, whether it be in 6 months, a year, a couple years, now all of a sudden you have a much better life to give other people because you took that time. You're not just, you know, hating yourself the entire time because then nothing good is going to come. I mean, you're not going to have genuine connections. But if you take that time, be a little bit selfish for some time. Now, like you said, love yourself, and it's going to be much more genuine.
And when you think about being genuine, you attract like it's like more authenticity into your life. When you're too big, right? Because I've seen people, even think people I love that are too busy trying to be somebody that they're not, to either please others or to look more interesting. And then they're just attracting people that are just as insecure or not authentic as the
Yep.
as right. So you're exuding, it's like quantum physics. We're all, I know it gets a little too deep here, but in reality, we are all energy. And
Hmm.
so we're omitting these like frequencies based on how we feel at any given time. Like it doesn't shut off just because you want to time out. Like this doesn't turn off. It's always on. And you wonder like, oh my God, I was just thinking about that. And it shows up in your life. That's why. So be
Yep.
careful too and how it is that you're feeling, whether you're feeling, that you have whatever, insecure or not confident, or I don't, trying to chase something that, just for the sake of chasing it versus really looking in the mirror of what is it that life really means for you. It's always on. So watch out for that. And it
Yep.
doesn't mean that we can't have a bad day. Like, Diana, what are you telling me? That if I'm gonna cry, if I'm upset, I'm frustrated, that I can't have feelings? Of course you can, but you can't stay there. That's the problem, right?
Hmm.
You got to get yourself up and realize that what else could I possibly be attracting? Doesn't mean that life is always going to be kumbaya.
Yep. That goes back into what you're saying about taking control of your life. And I think if you can finally get full control, you're going to ultimately master your level of human potential. I think
Right.
that is something that you really enjoy, is finding that human potential, finding what people are capable of. Can you kind of speak on how we can all get to that level?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's one of the biggest things also I'm obsessed with is just, again, results. When you think about anything at all, you have this image of what that looks like, right? So if I asked you, what did you have for dinner last night, Matt? You're already let's just play with this for a minute. What did you have for dinner last night?
Had some chicken, rice, and
So
green
you're
beans.
already looking somewhere. So that means that you are looking at where you just saw yourself sitting at your table, or maybe you
Right.
were standing wherever you were, right? They're all thoughts. Thoughts become images, are images in your mind. I'm sorry, images become the thoughts. That's what you're focusing on. So when you think about what you just asked me, all thoughts are going to affect how you feel,
Mm.
at any given time. All your thoughts. So if you're thinking of something scary, you're going to feel scared. If you think of
Yeah.
something like exciting, you're going to feel excited. You think of something that you're insecure about, or you don't know how you're going to do this or how it's going to work out, and you're feeling a little nervous, you're going to feel nervous. And what does that do? It affects the results you get. How? Because it's going to affect the actions that you take or the lack of actions that you don't take, the fear, right? Or the possibilities. All of that is intertwined with how you think will affect how you feel, and then how you feel will affect the action that you take with the action that you don't take, and then what does that spit out? The results.
Hmm.
So you really have to take control. And what is it that you're focusing on? People think that when I say that, and when I've even heard it myself, like when you're focusing on something doesn't mean you're actually focusing on it like a crystal ball. You're just focusing on your future. Like, I don't mean that. You could be driving, you could be in the shower, and you're thinking for 12 seconds a
Yeah.
bad thought. That's still a focus. So don't underestimate the power of a thought, small
Do
or
you,
big.
do you think it's possible to kind of, in a way, bulletproof your mind from that? So, an example, let's say you receive a negative text message.
Okay.
Most people, all of a sudden, that's going to impact your mood, whether it be for 5 minutes or the rest of the day. That is going to make you feel a certain type of way. Is there a way in any situation, any emotion, that these negative things come in and you can just kind of be like, no, like, I'm going to still go about my way. I'm going to have a good day. And is that possible in your opinion?
I think it's possible if you make it possible, because in that moment, it's like the spirit of the moment, like, and then you're like, nope,
Yeah.
I've done it. And I still do it. Like, nope, you are not going to hold space today. And I think it's when it's almost like a tennis match. And you're just like, no, it's on, and you're just, who's going to win? Who's going to win? Is this person, the text message, or the pandemic going to take over your world? Or are you going to be the one that, right, that ends that tennis match to a successful way that you want it to go? Even like the way I start my day, I'm like, today, anything that doesn't serve me will not hold space.
Hmm.
The things that don't serve me, or even thoughts that don't serve me, I'm going to show at the door. So it sounds really weird. Like, what do you mean, Diana? Is that really what you do? Like, you just show at the door? But when you decide up front that you don't have space for it, doesn't mean that things aren't going to be frustrated for you, but you've decided up front, this is what it is. And I always talk about put your bulletproof to rejection of any kind, whether it's just rejection to life, same thing with that, like put your bulletproof to frustration. You're building these things in your mind. You're building, it sounds really crazy, but not hardly anyone that will do this on a consistent basis. Like it's not that thing you did a week, one like one day a week or once a month that you're like, I did this thing, I'm so proud. Okay, but then next you're all motivated, but then what is that thing that you're doing every single day? It takes 30 seconds, it takes a minute, it takes 10 seconds for you to bring intention to the game. I talked to a whole sales team, and your average salesperson won't tell you what their intention is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it all ties to that, because like you said, can you look at a text message and just be like non-human, just be like a robot? Okay, this isn't gonna matter. That's not real. But
Yeah.
you can decide up front that not anything that does not serve me, I will not make room for. So
Yeah.
you get to decide to say, you know what, I'm not going to entertain that right now. Or maybe it's somebody important in your life that is annoying. Then you say, I'm not making space for this right now. I'll deal with this later.
Yep. I like that. I think that's very growth mindset centered because you're always thinking about the bigger picture. You're thinking about yourself first and what can come in the future. What kind of advice do you have around the growth mindset and how people can get away from the fixed mindset?
I think you make so there's two options in your mind happening all the time. Like we, Matt, are so wired. Like you're wired this way, is how you're born.
Hmm.
As a fight or flight that lives in you. This is facts. So yes, you need it if you're in the, I don't know, in the forest somewhere and you see like an animal. You're gonna have cars coming, you got to run out of the way. But it's always there, and it always wants to protect you. So it's always looking at what could go wrong, right? So I think it's knowing that when you do always have two options. There's it's almost like if you think about two images, it's always there, it's always going to live there, and you get to decide which choice, which way you're gonna entertain. So there's always the one picture of you not succeeding, a negative one, you
Yeah.
fill in the blanks, and of limited possibilities. And then you have another image of possibilities.
Hmm.
Where do you live at the most? Oh, well, I tend to live 50-50, right? So how can you just make progression every day, every week, just a little bit better than you freaking were yesterday? You're already ahead of the game. And
Hmm.
choosing, I'm going to choose to hang out in the window of possibilities. There's two of them. They're always going to live. You're always going to have the opposite of the other one. So to answer your question, how can you live more, be more in that growth mindset is looking at a perspective of possibilities. Doesn't matter what anyone tells you. I don't care what anyone tells you. I don't care if it's a doctor that tells you this, if it's a leader, maybe it's your boss, whoever it is, always know that there's a better way. And maybe you just have to look at it from a different angle. It's
Yeah.
on your perspective that's going to change what opportunities will show up based on the frequencies that you just omitted by living in that growth opportunity mindset versus the limited one. It's always going to bring you. Think about it. You have two people that say this is impossible, and another person says, well, it might be impossible, but I'm going to find a way somehow. I'm going to figure it out. All of a sudden, life will shift according to what you just said. It sounds creepy to some people, thinking like this isn't real. This is some witchcraft stuff. It's not, and you're already doing it. You're
Yeah.
already manifesting what you want or what you don't want based on what you're thinking about, what you're choosing to focus on.
Yeah. I like that visual representation you talked about because a lot of people are somewhere in the middle. You might be growth mindset in some area, fixed mindset in the other. I think that's a great thing for people to understand because it's not all one side. Some
No.
people might be fully fixed mindset, some people might be fully growth mindset, but that is super, super rare. A lot of people are in the middle. And I think, so an example for me, for let's say fitness, I love lifting weights. I'm not a big runner. So let's say I go into the gym, I'm lifting weights, like very growth mindset, like I can get stronger. I can improve in this way. I enjoy the process and I can see the potential in it. If I go out for a run right now and I get tired, I get sore, I'm like, "Oh, I'm not a runner." But that it's the same thing.
And does that
One
really affect your life?
Exactly. One is a growth mindset, one is a fixed mindset. If that is important to me, like you said, if that is going to affect my life, if I want to become a runner, all of a sudden, fixed mindset is coming in because that's how my mindset is about running. But it's important to notice that like there are different areas in our lives that we are fixed versus growth. And like you
Mhm.
said, great example, like is that going to impact your life? Is that something that's important to you? Now you need to push it over to growth mindset.
Oh yeah, and is it holding you back? More importantly, is it holding you back for
Hmm.
anything? Because it's impossible to just be one versus the other. We're always living in both. It depends on the nature of the thing. Um, even just fear, even fear. You're like, okay, like I don't like bats. I always mention this story, but is that a fear I have to get over? I mean, if I have to go through bats to save my kids, you bet your butt I'm gonna do it.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, they were definitely living in both. Even like you mentioned about running, like I personally don't like to run. I play tennis, Pilates, I don't know, other things I can do, like no problem.
Yep.
But I truly believe that, you have certain, it's also not just that beliefs, right? Like we have our own belief system that have carried us through childhood, through whatever, and it shows up now. And sometimes you have to look at what do I believe that is holding me back, and what are some beliefs that are innocent, right? Like those innocent beliefs that people think that you walk past a cat, you get bad luck, or
Hmm.
different things that we were told, that sometimes are not serving us, and other things that's like innocent and dumb, and you're just like whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I know a lot of our audience likes to read books. Are there any books that spoke to you on your journey of personal development that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, which I
Yep.
mentioned, that's a good one. I think that that's I threw myself in so many different books. I mean, there's so much out there. I look at a lot of quantum physics. I mean, I'm not sure if there's a book on quantum physics. I just did a lot of the articles and research that was done, more or less, even from Harvard. I think The Power of Your Subconscious Mind is a really good one. Not to get too spiritual, but Conversations with God, I love that one. I think that we all have a higher self, a creator, whoever your God is. I truly believe that there's somebody greater than ourselves, big time, and that lives in you, and just learning how to tap into that. And there's a lot of popular books out there, like the Think and Grow Rich. And to
Hmm.
me, Think and Grow Rich is never about grow rich in your bank account. You Think and Grow Rich is all based on your thoughts and what that's producing. I'll have my book out very soon, but not yet.
Awesome. Looking
I
forward
am.
to it.
Thank you. I am doing the Ultimate Reset. I don't know if you heard that from Neha or not, but the Ultimate Reset is June 23rd, and that's not a book, but it's there's a manual that goes along with it, and it's a virtual masterclass that's happening, and that's really awesome because it's a way for you to reset and really get clarity of what you're looking to achieve for the rest of 2022. I started this Ultimate Reset based even just on my own journey and feeling like you're going, and you start the year
Hmm.
like thinking so positively about life, and you think, okay, this is my clean slate. And then halfway through the year, you feel like you haven't gotten exactly what you wanted to get done. And I do believe that you sometimes can't keep going in that craziness.
Yeah.
You have to stop and have that clarity and to reset. So,
That's good. Where can everybody find that? Can you plug yourself
um,
real quick?
sure, you can go to dianapagano.com, go to the events page, or on Instagram. I think it's in the bio still. So it's I am Diana Pagano on Instagram.
Awesome.
But yeah, it'll be a great event.
That's great. What wakes you up in the morning? What gets you out of bed and keeps you going day to day?
My two little boys. I don't have an alarm clock.
Yeah, they are the
um,
alarm clock.
they are the alarm clock, but honestly, I've been waking up at like 5 in the morning, at least 3 times a week, so that sometimes 4:30, because it's my time to really have, and I look forward to it. Like what gets me up? Purpose, my
Hmm.
purpose in life. Like everything I do, everything has purpose, and it's interesting because a lot of that purpose driven could be like maybe to a fault sometimes. Anything I do, like you'll never catch me doing something that's just meaningless. I'm all about meditation and just being in silent. I don't mean that. I mean that everything's purposeful. Like if there has to be a purpose behind, not because I'm freaking the first lady, but I'm very busy. Like I'm extremely busy with my time, so I'm very mindful where I spend my time. And everybody listening, definitely be mindful of where you spend your time, and even like the people around you. Are the people around you going to empower you? Are you going to learn from them, or is there something you can contribute to them? Sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but back
No.
to your question about what gets me up. I think it's my purpose, and when
Yeah.
you find your purpose of what it is you're going to tackle, I think it's fun. I wake up really excited,
Hmm.
excited for what's to come, even the things that I have no idea is going to happen. It's exciting. It's exciting to be a mom and to be a speaker, and things that we're doing for my book and all the other projects we have going on. It's exciting because you're seeing the progression. When I went back to tell you what success is, it's when you feel that there's something that you're doing that is fulfilling, is when you're progressing in something. I see the growth in myself every day, challenges that just make me stronger, ideas, creativity. So yeah, I think it's
Love that.
purpose.
Yeah, that's an important example about being excited about your day. I heard something before, I forget who said it, but they made the example of when you were in elementary school going on a field trip. Like, you didn't need an alarm clock that day. You were up super early. You probably had your outfit laid out the night before because it was something different, it was something
Hmm.
new, and you didn't know what to expect. You were just overwhelmed with excitement. And that just, it goes away day to day for a lot of people. But I think it's what a lot of people need to realize is incorporate something into your life that brings you excitement. So now when you wake up in the morning, yeah, there might be some stress. There might be, oh, I'm a little bit tired, but you can look to that one thing and say, hey, I'm excited because this is fun to me, or I don't know what to expect. So we're going to see what happens. And that'll give you some fuel for your day.
Absolutely. It's funny because weekends is like, okay, family time and whatever we do. And that's even, or personalized or crazy too, but a good crazy. And I look forward to Mondays. People have the case of the Mondays. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is the case of the Mondays? You're building this thing and you've adapted this thing from society, the case of the Mondays. Mondays is amazing. It's like
Yeah,
a start of the week. What are we going to do to make things happen? And progression, really, when you
mm-hmm.
know that you're going to do something to move the needle.
Exactly. My last question for you: if you were to
Sure.
leave the audience with one piece of advice, what would that be?
One piece of advice that you are so much more like you're capable so much more than you may or may not realize at this point in your life, wherever you are in your life, and you can really make things happen, and you really are driving your future. Like, no one is to blame for anything in your life, even if somebody dealt you bad cards, that you really are capable of so much more to make things happen. And um, know that you are capable of that, and surround yourself with people that can help you get there. There's so much out there, so much information, so many resources at your fingertips. You don't need $1 million. You don't need money to make things happen. It's a day at a time. It's a day at a time. Just improve a day at a time and be proud of that, because I think that's what you're going to feel more successful is when you see how far you've come, and not to make it a big mountain to climb. It's every day doing one little thing. I promise you, you will see the results, and you will become a bigger fan, and you'll get momentum when you do that. But don't stop, and do not settle for anything less than what your heart desires.
Amazing, amazing advice. Diana Pagano, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check out her Instagram, website, everything. She has great content. I hope you guys enjoy this interview. Diana, thank you so much for joining us. This has been
Thank you,
amazing.
Matt. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
For sure.